to be true. I don't know if Dr. Nabil Shahid said really this, but I can't comment on something that I'm not sure of.
A marriage that shocked the world. In 1990, a union that defied all expectations captured global attention. A 61-year-old revolutionary leader, known worldwide, married a 27-year-old woman from a wealthy Christian Palestinian family. Yasser Arafat and Suha Tawil's marriage was more than just an unlikely romance. It was a collision of two completely different worlds. He was a battle-hardened revolutionary, living in exile, constantly surrounded by bodyguards, danger, and political turmoil. She was young, well-educated, and had spent much of her life in the sophisticated streets of Paris, far removed from war zones and conflict. Their marriage sent shockwaves through political circles. Some of Arafat's closest allies voiced their disapproval, while his enemies spread whispers about Suha's true intentions, suggesting she was merely pursuing power. Even Suha's own family pleaded with her to reconsider, but she held firm, perhaps driven by love, or maybe by something greater, a sense of purpose, a mission, a dream of a future by his side. Little did she know that this marriage would become her golden cage, a life marked by isolation, fear, and eventual regret. The woman behind the headlines. Before becoming the wife of one of the Middle East's most controversial leaders, Suha Tawil lived a life of privilege and promise. Born in 1963 to a wealthy Palestinian Christian family, she enjoyed advantages many Palestinians could only dream of. Her father's career as a banker and her mother's work as a journalist and activist provided Suha with a comfortable upbringing filled with art, culture, and educational opportunities. Unlike many of her contemporaries, Suha's childhood was untouched by the harsh realities of conflict. She attended an exclusive French school in Jerusalem before moving to Paris to study at the prestigious Sorbonne University. Young Suha was ambitious, intelligent, and outspoken, qualities that seemed at odds with the traditional role of a political leader's wife. The path to power. The story of how Suha entered Arafat's world begins with her mother, a passionate advocate for the Palestinian cause and a close friend of the revolutionary leader. Her mother's deep admiration for Arafat would eventually bridge the gap between these two disparate lives. Though Suha first met Arafat as a teenager, their paths would cross again years later, setting in motion a series of events that would forever alter her life. At 23, Suha relocated to Tunisia, where Arafat and the Palestinian Liberation Organization were operating in exile. She began working as his translator and event organizer, gradually becoming an integral part of his inner circle. Despite their 3-decade age gap and vastly different life experiences, an unexpected connection formed between the young woman who once dreamed of a peaceful life and the man who had dedicated his existence to revolution. Their relationship developed against the backdrop of political intrigue and constant movement, surrounded by uniformed men and the ever-present threat of danger. Whether it was admiration, curiosity, or fate that drew them together, one thing became clear. When Suha Tawil married Yasser Arafat, she was stepping into a world she couldn't possibly have understood or prepared for. A secret union. Initially, Suha's role was modest, helping with translations and managing public relations. But as time passed, an unexpected intimacy developed between her and Arafat. For a man who had dedicated his entire existence to politics and warfare, always on the move, constantly surrounded by military men, romance seemed impossible. Many believed Arafat would never marry. He was the father of the Palestinian movement, but no one expected him to become a real father. Then, at 61, he shocked everyone. The 1990 wedding was far from a grand celebration. No ceremonies, no cheering crowds, and only a handful of witnesses. The secrecy wasn't without reason. Arafat knew his marriage would spark political controversy. He had cultivated an image as a dedicated leader and warrior. A wife didn't fit into this carefully constructed narrative. Opposition and doubt. The marriage faced resistance from all sides. Arafat's closest allies distrusted Suha. She was too young, too Western, too disconnected from their struggle. Her own family was horrified. While Suha's mother had introduced her to Arafat hoping she would support the cause, she never imagined her daughter would marry him. Her privileged Christian family couldn't comprehend why she would choose a life with a man 3 decades her senior, living under constant threat. The question lingered. What drove Suha to make this choice? Was it love, admiration, or perhaps the allure of being part of something greater? The answer remains elusive, but the consequences were clear. Her life transformed irreversibly. Life in a golden cage. Being Yasser Arafat's wife wasn't the glamorous role one might imagine. Instead of luxury and romance, Suha found herself trapped in a world of perpetual fear and isolation. Arafat's primary commitment was always to his cause. He had been married to his mission long before he married her. Their life together defied normalcy. Without a stable home, peaceful moments were rare. Arafat was constantly traveling, perpetually surrounded by security, and engaged in endless political meetings. Even when physically together, they were emotionally distant. Their residence wasn't a home, but a fortress. Armed guards everywhere, constant assassination threats, and the perpetual fear of poisoned meals. Beyond the suffocating security, Suha struggled to belong. Her blonde hair, Western education, and Parisian sophistication made her an outsider in Palestine. Despite converting to Sunni Islam after marriage, skepticism about her sincerity persisted. Rumors circulated about Christian icons hidden in her private quarters, and many believed her conversion was merely for show. To Arafat's devoted followers, these whispers only confirmed their suspicions about the woman who had captured their leader's attention, but never their trust. An outsider in her own world. Palestinians had always harbored suspicions about Suha. In a region where bloodlines and heritage carried immense weight, she remained an outsider, a foreigner who had seemingly forced her way into Arafat's life. The whispers were constant. She was using Arafat for power and wealth, secretly funneling Palestinian funds into foreign accounts. Whether these accusations held any truth didn't matter. Perception had become reality. To the Palestinian people, she wasn't the devoted First Lady they expected. Instead, they saw a gold digger, an infiltrator who had wormed her way into their beloved leader's life. Meanwhile, Arafat's inner circle, men who had stood beside him through decades of struggle, viewed her with equal distrust. They saw her as nothing more than a Western distraction, someone who could never truly understand their cause or their world. A marriage of solitude. Every word Suha spoke, every move she made had to be carefully calculated. One misstep would spark fresh rumors about her marriage and intentions, but perhaps most painful was the crushing loneliness. Arafat was perpetually absent, spending his nights working, making calls, and strategizing. Even during their rare moments together, his mind wandered elsewhere. In 1995, after 5 years of marriage, Suha gave birth to their daughter, Zawa. For a brief moment, hope flickered. Perhaps fatherhood would change Arafat, bring him closer to home. But nothing changed. While Suha raised their daughter alone, Arafat maintained his usual routine, appearing with his family only for carefully orchestrated photo opportunities and political events. The silent First Lady. Unlike the wives of Western leaders, Suha held no real power or influence. She wasn't expected to engage in charitable work, political discussions, or diplomatic relations. Her role was clear: remain silent, stay in the background, and never become a distraction. For a woman raised with freedom and independence, this existence was suffocating. As years passed, Suha's isolation deepened. She had no close friends, no support system, and her relationship with Arafat's inner circle remained strained. She had sacrificed everything, her freedom, dreams, and happiness, for this marriage, only to find herself questioning if it had been worth it. The early 2000s brought new challenges. As Arafat's health declined, though no one dared discuss it openly, Suha's position became even more precarious. His inner circle, who had never truly accepted her, now barely tolerated her presence. She remained the First Lady of Palestine in name only, a figurehead without influence, trapped in a golden cage of her own making. The final days. By 2004, Suha's position had become increasingly precarious. Though she remained First Lady of Palestine, it was a title without substance. When Arafat fell seriously ill that year, the situation deteriorated further. At first, no one wanted to acknowledge the severity of his condition. After all, this was a man who had survived wars, exile, and countless assassination attempts. But this time was different. He was weaker, more vulnerable. Even in these critical moments, Suha found herself pushed aside. His longtime advisors and confidants took control, leaving her with no say in his treatment or care. Only when he was transferred to France for medical attention did Suha briefly regain some influence, speaking on his behalf and making public statements. A battle behind closed doors. As Arafat's condition worsened, a complex political drama unfolded. Palestinian officials demanded answers about his illness. Was it poison? Natural causes? The questions multiplied while answers remained elusive. Suha, desperate to maintain what little authority she had left, restricted access to his hospital room. She knew that once Arafat was gone, she would lose everything. On November 11, 2004, Yasser Arafat died. For the world, it marked the end of an era. For Suha, it was the beginning of a nightmare. Rather than receiving sympathy or respect, she faced accusations, rumors, and fierce battles over Arafat's legacy. She publicly claimed he had been poisoned, pointing fingers at Israel and his enemies, but many Palestinians viewed her suspiciously. The fall from grace. Within days of Arafat's death, Suha found herself effectively exiled. The transformation was swift and brutal, from First Lady to unwelcome widow. With nowhere else to go, she took her daughter and retreated to France, far from the world she had once been part of. But distance couldn't protect her from the emerging scandals. Questions about Arafat's fortune began to surface. During his lifetime, he had controlled billions in Palestinian funds, channeled through secret accounts and foreign banks. After his death, much of this money seemingly vanished. Palestinian leaders accused Suha of taking the fortune for herself, with media outlets running stories about hidden Swiss and French bank accounts containing millions. Suha vehemently denied these accusations, maintaining she was simply a grieving widow with no knowledge of Arafat's financial dealings. She claimed his political allies had turned against her to hide the truth about his death. But in Palestine, no one was interested in her side of the story. She was officially cut off, banned from returning to the West Bank, and clearly informed by the new Palestinian leadership that she had no place in their government or future. A life in exile. Without government influence or protection, Suha's dreams of playing a significant role in Palestinian politics crumbled. She settled in France with her daughter Zawa, but life there proved challenging. Gone were the days of being a powerful man's wife, constantly in the spotlight and protected. Now she was just another foreign widow in a country that showed little interest in her story. For years, she maintained a low profile, but scandals continued to haunt her. In 2011, she pushed French authorities to launch an official investigation into Arafat's death, insisting he had been poisoned. Her persistence led to the exhumation of his body, and tests revealed traces of polonium, a highly toxic substance, on his personal belongings. Yet even this evidence wasn't enough to clear her name or restore her reputation. The price of power. The impact of her choices extended beyond herself. Her daughter Zawa, whom she had once dreamed of giving a better life, grew up without a country, a father, or a clear future. Choosing to distance herself from the political chaos that had defined her parents' marriage, Zawa opted for a quiet life away from the spotlight. For Suha, the message was painfully clear. She had given everything to Arafat but ended up with nothing. No home, no country, no allies. All that remained were memories of a life that had transformed into a prison, and the weight of regret that grew heavier with each passing year. Breaking the silence. Nearly a decade after Yasser Arafat's death, Suha finally broke her silence about the reality of their marriage. In a candid interview, she admitted what many had long suspected. She regretted marrying him. The marriage to Arafat was a big mistake, she confessed, adding that while their union lasted 22 years, it felt like 50. She revealed shocking details about her attempts to leave, claiming she had tried to divorce Arafat more than 100 times. But he wouldn't allow it. Everyone in his inner circle knew of her unhappiness, but escape was impossible. She wasn't just his wife. She was trapped in a world that left no room for weakness, freedom, or personal desires. The truth unveiled. The warnings had been there from the beginning. Her family, especially her mother, had fought desperately to prevent the marriage, even flying to Tunis to confront Arafat face to face. Fate chose me, Suha would later say, but the reality of being his wife exceeded her worst fears. Constant surveillance, monitored phone calls, and complete loss of personal autonomy became her daily reality. As soon as I became Mrs. Arafat, I was locked away behind walls for security reasons, she recalled. Years of constant movement and uncertainty followed, leading to a complete loss of identity. My identity was completely destroyed, she admitted. No longer the educated young woman from a respected Palestinian family, but merely Arafat's wife, expected to remain silent and compliant. Even after his death, accusations continued to plague her. Stories of stolen fortunes and hidden millions in secret bank accounts followed her everywhere. All the stories about Arafat putting millions in my bank account are nonsense and lies, she maintained, but the rumors persisted, making it impossible to escape her past. Now, living quietly in exile with her daughter, Suha's life stands as a testament to the high price of power. Her final admission speaks volumes. If I could turn back time, I wouldn't marry Arafat. It was a life she never truly chose, and one that ultimately left her with nothing but regrets. A life after power. After years of living in fear, isolation, and endless political scandals, Suha Arafat's life took a dramatic turn. The woman who once stood beside one of the world's most powerful and controversial leaders now lives far removed from the politics, Palestine, and struggles that once defined her existence. Following Arafat's death, Suha settled in Tunisia, hoping to find peace in a country that had previously offered sanctuary. However, even this refuge proved temporary. In a shocking move that left her reeling, the Tunisian government revoked her citizenship in 2007. Once again, she found herself stateless, cast aside by a nation that had once welcomed her with open arms. Finding refuge. Forced to start anew, Suha eventually found sanctuary in Malta, a small Mediterranean island far from the tumultuous world she once knew. There, she has attempted to build a quiet private life, away from the endless rumors and accusations that followed her husband's death. The contrast between her current existence and her former life as Palestine's First Lady couldn't be more stark. While Suha has retreated from the political stage, her daughter Zawa Arafat has chosen an even more distant path. Only 9 years old when her father died, she was too young to fully comprehend the world she was born into. As she matured, Zawa made a conscious decision to distance herself from her father's legacy. The next generation. Unlike the children of other world leaders, Zawa maintains a deliberately low profile. She doesn't speak about Palestine, make public appearances, or involve herself in the political battles that consumed her father's life. Instead, she divides her time between Paris and London, geographically and emotionally removed from the conflict that shaped her parents' lives. Recent claims by activist and philanthropist Adam Millen suggest that Zawa enjoys considerable wealth, allegedly owning significant real estate holdings, including a street in London, and living a privileged life in Paris. Millen asserts that she inherited a multi-million-dollar fortune from funds originally intended for Palestine. However, these claims remain unverified, and their validity is disputed. The allegations directly contradict Suha Arafat's consistent statements that she received none of her late husband's supposed wealth. Whether Zawa truly lives a life of luxury or these claims are merely attempts to discredit her mother's narrative, one fact remains undeniable. She now exists far from the homeland her father spent his life fighting for. The truth behind the Arafat fortune remains one of modern history's most intriguing mysteries. While some see Suha as a victim of circumstance who gained nothing from her marriage to Yasser Arafat, others remain convinced there's more to the story than meets the eye. The debate continues, but the answers may never fully come to light. If you enjoyed this video exploring the complex life of Suha Arafat, please like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell to stay updated on more fascinating stories. Share your thoughts in the comments below. Thanks for watching.